Among the Eldar society, the Harlequins lead a nomadic life, wandering along the mysterious paths of the webway. Masquerading as a troupe of ordinary actors, embodying the mythic cycles of the Eldar in magnificent performances, they are in truth skilled warriors, waging a covert war against the forces of chaos. Act 3. The Dance Without End. Among all pieces of the mythic cycle performed by the Harlequins on stage, the most renowned is The Dance Without End. Let us delve into what this spectacle represents. At last, the crowd fell silent. The audience, abandoning their conversations, held their breath in eager anticipation. The air was thick with it. Ariadne felt a powerful sense of unity surpassing that which connected him to his sister. The entire crowd, as one, breathed in unison. The twins pondered how close the current events were to the times when the Eldar wielded power and indulged in pleasures without fear and in all their fullness. After the last whispered word faded, the light dimmed to a level barely surpassing darkness. Like deep-sea fish in the abyss, the faces and hands of the audience stood out in shimmering blue droplets, their eyes like brilliant jewels fixated on the stage. A sweet aroma enveloped the twins, sharpening their focus. With a click, the stage was pierced by a lance of white light, illuminating a figure clad in the motley garb of a harlequin. Despite being 100 steps away, the twins could clearly see each diamond on his colourful costume. An alabaster white mask bore a mocking caricatured smile, and on the left cheek a tear shimmered with hues of sapphire. His hair, a tall crest in constant flux of colours, from one edge nearly reached the tip of his nose, while from the other touched his back. He spoke not a word, but bowed gracefully. The light extinguished. "Tomorrow we shall fight." The hoarse whisper of an elder woman filled the hall with its joyous sentiment. "But today we dance. Today we dance the dance without end. Today we dance it as always, and completely." The lights ignited. On stage stood 49 dancers, frozen in poses speaking of might and wisdom. These were the Eldar of ancient times. Music erupted, trumpets sang, supported by a deep and sombre bass. A dozen Eldar, slowly coming to life, nobly stepped forward. Their masks bore the faces of gods. There were Asurian Vol, Cain, Isha, Moriheg, Kurnus, Liliath, and many others, each beckoning, gifting, or dancing with the Eldar according to their roles. Most of the dancers' movements seemed unreal, for the production depicted the Elder race at the height of its power, when by Azurian's will the gods were still separate and had no significant influence. The Harlequins, portraying the Elder, danced with grace and nobility. Their elegant movements recalled legendary events, some of which were well known to the twins, others leaving them puzzled. Gradually, discordant notes began to emerge in the music. The movements of the gods became erratic and troubled. The Eldar were increasingly contorted in a dance that took on ever darker shades, until finally all the dancers were immersed in a scene of depravity. The music sounded unpleasant. At first imperceptibly, and then with brazen openness, others joined the dance. They wore tight-fitting black costumes, and their masks depicted grinning faces which, even at the moment they appeared on stage, inspired an urge to cringe in fear and scream. Servants of chaos. The sweet fragrance grew more intense, and the dancers increased in size, transforming into giants. The creatures in black danced obscenely, moving among the Eldar, drawing them into grotesque pairs. When the dancers made contact, the bright clothes lost their colour and also turned black, and the previously displayed nobility vanished. The gods recoiled in disgust when they noticed that a large number of Harlequins were desecrated, and then they themselves were attacked. Prancing death jesters leaped onto the stage, somersaulting over the mocking dancers. They pounced on the gods in a martial pantomime, striking one after another and piling the fallen bodies into a heap. Only Cain withstood, skillfully deflecting countless attacks from many opponents. However, 3 Eldar remained untouched by the lust of chaos. The first turned away from the debauchery at the very beginning and left the stage. The second lingered a bit, assessing the situation, and also departed. The third remained. When the frenzied dances reached their climax, he wrapped himself in a black cloak and disappeared with malevolent laughter. All the others, as one, fell dead. The melody fell silent. Another appeared. A new dancer emerged onto the stage, the solitaire, in a suit adorned with exquisite depictions of pleasures mingled with nightmares. His very figure was changeable. One moment he appeared as a man, the next as a woman. This was the Dark Prince, the one who thirsts, Slaanesh. He danced around Cain, seducing him while the audience beyond the stage felt mounting anger. An unseen source of this fury drew the god, casting him to the edge of the stage and back, nearly into Slaanesh's embrace, and then again to the edge. Eventually the god of war fell. The dancer playing him somehow miraculously transformed into several, scattering in different directions. Slaanesh wandered across the stage, seeking and finishing off those who slipped away from him. A monstrous scream was heard, overshadowing the song. It echoed unbearably in the minds and souls of the elder audience. The scream contained mad, desperate and triumphant laughter. The audience swayed as another figure appeared on stage. A new ironic laugh was heard, purely and cynically parodying the scream that had echoed. The great Harlequin. His clothing mirrored that demonstrated before. The actor portraying Segorak required no special costume, for Harlequins were the reflection of their god, and the king of Harlequins was more like himself than any other. Segorak strolled the stage, laughing at the fallen and taunting the demons of Slaanesh. The angered Dark Prince sent his servants to catch him. Demons danced around the laughing god, pausing only when he managed to catch the great Harlequin, but he would effortlessly break free each time, his motley attire shining ever brighter. This repeated again and again. Then 3 Eldar, saved from the fall, returned to the scene and continued to perform the former dance discreetly, hiding each time Slaanesh glanced their way. This was a rare occurrence, for all attention of She Who Thirsts was riveted to the antics of the laughing god. A couple of times the Dark Prince did try to seize the Eldar, but they managed to evade, provoking Slaanesh into a rage. He lunged at Segorak, and 2 Harlequins battled in an enthralling dance duel. At this moment the dance without end traditionally concluded. Solitaire and the great Harlequin continued to whirl around each other in an eternal confrontation. Every Eldar knew this, as Harlequins were often discussed, and the ritual of the performance was well known. Yet on that night, the dance did not end. A new movement began. While the laughing god and the Dark Prince danced, one of the fallen stirred. His costume flared, replacing grim, depraved depictions with pristine white skulls and bones adorned with gems that unmistakably resembled spirit stones. As if waking from a deep slumber, the figure rubbed its head. It rose, and the spirit stones on the exposed bones of its costume glowed brightly. It looked at its hands and clenched them tightly. The shadow seer of the troupe, employing the art of shadow, created an illusion in the minds of the audience that the figure had grown to colossal size. It swayed to the music, its blurred, shadowy arms surrounding the spectators with unsettling, hissing sounds. Segorak laughed at this spectre, yet jumped aside. The movements of the great Harlequin conveyed defiance, mirth, hope, and fear. Solitaire, in the role of Slaanesh, stumbled, capturing the last of the 3 surviving Eldar. The dancer playing his victim cried out and fell, but did not die. He crawled away, hoping to hide in the darkness the remaining half of his shattered soul. The Dark Prince once again lunged at the laughing god in an even more frenzied dance. The audience watched in spellbound fascination, unable to move. Segorak leapt across the stage, diverting Slaanesh's attention from the new creature gathering strength. However, in the end, She Who Thirsts did manage to knock the great Harlequin off his feet. Desiring to obliterate the defeated with a triumphant strike, she bent towards Segorak, but he laughed triumphantly, looking over her shoulder. Slaanesh turned. A new god was reaching for her, and his limbs blazed with the light of borrowed souls. On the face of the Dark Prince flickered countless faces of terrible beauty, each replacing the other, inexplicably, but each expressed fear. The Chaos Prince recoiled. Darkness fell before the new god could seize the daughter of Eldar, leaving the finale a mystery. The lights came back on in the hall. The stage was empty. Spectators exchanged glances in disbelief. "Inead?" Voices rose in the crowd. The god of death awakens. Did we witness a myth, a parable? Is it not a parable? It is an ill omen, what do the seers say? Ariadne took a deep breath. Emotions surged within him. He looked at his sister. She, in return, squeezed his hand tighter with her own and spoke. Here are the dances without end. It seems to be a new finale. Act 4, the cast. Since the fall, servants of the laughing god gather into formations called mask theatres. However, the travelling players within these groups engage in more than just staging spectacular performances. Each of them is a deadly warrior, aiding the realization of their enigmatic master's schemes. A mask theatre is both an army and a troupe of actors. It has no formal leader, for the theatre is essentially a gathering of like-minded followers of Segarak, where all know their duties depending on the traditionally performed roles. None of the Harlequins leads their comrades for long, because each has an equal say. The internal organization of a mask theatre originates from those ancient times when the followers of Segarak were primarily actors. Since the fall, each theatre traditionally leaves one vacant place for a solitaire in case they wish to join, but otherwise the composition has not undergone significant changes and still relies on 3 troupes associated with light, darkness and twilight. Each of them is represented by its own list of characters, united by similar worldviews and symbolism. For instance, light is usually associated with proactive actions, heroes, the sky and the day. In contrast, darkness embodies opposing villains, the night, and brutal endings, while twilight signifies transitions akin to the webway, or fateful journeys, and includes characters that occupy multiple sides or constantly switch them. Such a structure allows each participant to know the roles of their comrades both on stage and on the battlefield. Similarly, each theatrical group is assigned a unique part in the productions of one of the grand theatres, where it performs alongside many other artistic ensembles of Harlequins to realize the will of Segarak throughout the webway and beyond it. Such mutual understanding allows Harlequin mask theatres to fight with almost perfect efficiency. The troop leader does not even need to give commands, for the actors already know their personal duties and those of their comrades, as well as who needs support at the moment or who can provide it. Despite the lack of a strict hierarchy, theatres can act with far greater synchronicity and discipline than regular armies, as in battle they resemble more a single, perfectly assembled entity than a group of individual warriors. This incredible effectiveness is further enhanced by the fact that each mythological play has a separate script for its enactment on the battlefield, called Sedat in the Aeldari language. Essentially, it serves as a battle plan with allegorical undertones. The Sedath defines key objectives, overall strategy, and which of the 3 types of troops should lead on stage. The choice is made based on a range of different factors. In some cases, the theatre specializes in certain specific legends and primarily relies on them. In others, the ultimate decision is influenced by the ritual significance of the enemy, the battlefield, or even the time of day and lighting levels. In any case, each Sedath is a meticulously devised and brilliantly conceived scheme of action, guaranteed to leave the enemy in confusion. The Harlequin actors perform their parts with compelling skill, and it doesn't matter to them where to perform, whether in a clear-lit amphitheatre of wraithbone and glass, or in the midst of the burning hell of the battlefield. They tumble, run, and leap, delivering death to the enemy with each press of the trigger or swing of the blade. No Eldar is born a Harlequin, and there are many strange tales about how such a metamorphosis occurs. It is said that some are lured directly from the crowd and led into shadows by masked figures seen only by them. Others simply vanish from their chambers, leaving behind their precious spirit stones. To become a Harlequin means to erase everything that came before: friends, family, the path, and destiny. Yet it happens, and when an Eldar becomes a Harlequin, all aspects of their former personality vanish. Each one joins the troop of light, twilight, or darkness, and assumes a new role by the troop leader's assignment. These roles, known by the ritualistic names of characters such as the Weaver of the Weird, the Sun Prince, or Shemesh the Poisoner, from that moment onwards determine all facets of the Harlequin's life. There's also something else that sets Harlequins apart from their kin from the craft worlds and the exodites. They do not wear spirit stones. Usually, when an elder dies, their defenseless soul is consumed by Slaanesh, unless it is held within one of these mysterious stones, which are then joined with the Infinity Circuit or embedded into the craft world's Infinity Chain. However, the Harlequins possess a secret capable of protecting them from the maw of She Who Thirsts, and it does not appear that they intend to share this secret. Light, twilight, and darkness. To other races it may seem that the appearance of Harlequins lacks any distinctive marks or uniformity as such. This only benefits the warriors of the Laughing God, for confusion, in their view, is as much a tool of war as a sword or pistol. However, they themselves perfectly distinguish by symbolism to which of the three types of troops any given Riliatan, that is, actor, belongs, whether to the light, twilight, or dark. Additionally, each warrior's attire is painted in the colours of their mask theatre, and those of special honour even bear the rune of their theatre. The ancient Elder Rune of Unity reflects an actor's status within the theatre. It is not used in such a simple form. Most often it finds reflection in rhomboid patterns. Typically, actors draw the rune of their troop on their knee pad, thigh, or shoulder pad. The runes of light, twilight, and darkness are represented by a three-sided prism, a heart, and a four-pointed star, respectively. In battle, the Harlequin's mask projects terrifying visions from the victim's worst nightmares. Externally, however, it always remains as it was crafted for the character being portrayed by the actor. The execution of different roles is displayed diversely, whether by splitting into black and white halves, as in the case of the Singer at Dawn or the Blinded Princess, by draping fabric with a checkered or rhomboid pattern, like the grinning offspring of the cults, or through soft shades and refined strokes such as the stylized Tear of Isha's Sorrow. Harlequins possess numerous extraordinarily rare artifacts, which are carefully preserved alongside other ancient treasures in the Black Library. Now you will learn about some of them. Starweave raiment. At first glance, the starweave raiment differs little from a regular holosuit, except that it is woven from threads as thin as spider silk, made from a substance resembling liquid silver. Yet in motion it shimmers with reflected starlight, dazzling and confounding enemies. This effect is further enhanced if the wearer runs. The blurred glow expands and becomes akin to a blinding halo behind which nothing is visible. This is precisely what the mimic Elos, a remarkable actor sent by Segurak himself, did when he descended upon the treacherous assistant of Vol named Gavil, blinding him as punishment for deceit. The Storyteller Sword. The elegant and exquisitely balanced Storyteller Sword features a blade forged from star metal and a hilt crafted from processed wraithbone. Its surface is inscribed with tiny text, narrating the fall of the Eldar as told by Shadowseers. Fighting with this weapon, its owner sees before them that dreadful time, and their mind is filled with incredible psychic images of the greatest tragedy of their people. Stirred to deadly fury by these horrors, the sword's bearer fights harder and with greater determination to prevent such terrible events from ever happening again. Crescendo. This exemplary shuriken pistol was first presented to the leader of the Hidden Path troop. Allegedly, it was gifted by a certain wanderer of the Webway, whom the actors of the Mask Theatre recognized as Segurak himself. Although many doubt the truth of this claim, no one can deny that Crescendo is an exceptionally powerful weapon of truly exquisite craftsmanship. It is equipped with micro-distortion generators that, when the trigger is pulled, cause the pistol's owner to shift slightly forward in time. As a result, both the weapon and its wielder accelerate and unleash bursts of projectiles with incredible speed. The name Crescendo was given for the increasing howl it emits as it mows down ranks of enemies. The Mask of Secrets. Many Eldar believe that the Mask of Secrets is nothing more than a myth, and perhaps it would be better if it were so. However, it is quite real and contained within a grim crypt in the depths of the Black Library. Anyone who dares to gaze upon the mask will see in it distorted reflections of their own failures and defeats. The slightest doubt or regret is twisted to such an extent that it becomes a ghastly torrent of spectres that scream and howl, scratching at the walls of the victim's mind. Those who wear the mask of secrets fear nothing, so long as it remains upon their face. It is said, though, that ultimately they will still pay a terrible price for this temporary advantage. The Rose of Sigorak. In imitation of the barbed gift which the laughing god humorously presented to the crone Morai Heg, the Rose of Sigorak contains thorned monofilament shadow silk. Existing in the twilight realm between the real world and the dimension of the labyrinth, the threads of this fabric pass through even the thickest armor, as if it weren't there at all. Upon touching the victim's body, the strands unravel, and at their ends, flowers with blade-thin petals, layered at the molecular level, bloom. Consequently, the enemy dies instantly, when a dense bouquet of blood-red roses sprouts from their chest. The Eye of the Laughing God. It is said that this amulet, inscribed with runes and made from wraithbone, once attracted the watchful gaze of Sigorak himself. Near this powerful artifact, psychic abilities cease to function, for the laughing god forbids the tendrils of the warp from reaching out to his children. This aura of silence envelops not only the bearer, but also swathes nearby allies. Thus, Sigorak watches over his followers, guarding them against the predatory claims of she who thirsts. Leaders of the troops. The Harlequins live, perform, and fight within a troop, a motley group where each member has their own special role. Its leader, known as the Troop Master or Ater in the Eldar tongue, embodies Sigorak himself, while the other performers embody gods and mortals from various songs and legends. Troops give performances before any communities of their people, be they residents of the craft worlds, inhabitants of maiden worlds, or even the children of the Dark City, as they tend not to heed their hostile relationships. The Harlequins are always ready to fight alongside their kin, regardless of their origins and preferences. Harlequins who lead the troops are the choreographers of battles, guiding comrades in a dangerous dance amid the ever-changing course of combat, doing everything possible to ensure that their performance on the theatre of war is as perfect as can be. With the consent of their brothers, they become accountable for the successes and failures of entire troops, and in many conflicts, the most gifted of them are even entrusted with the leadership of the entire theatre. The leaders of the troops are more akin to lead actors rather than formal commanders, as they rise by the will of their brothers and sisters and play their roles until it is time for others to take their place. They become exemplars of the key qualities of their troop, embodying all that it means to be light, darkness, or twilight. Thus, the leaders of the light troops charge into battle like valiant heroes of ancient legends, playing such aggressive and honourable roles as the Duke of the Secret Kingdom or the Eldana Prince. In contrast, the leaders of the dark troops present themselves as sinister and vengeful, always striving to make the enemy's demise brighter and more spectacular. Meanwhile, the directors of the Twilight troops see transitional periods everywhere. In their attention to nuances and details, they often appear obsessed or mad, but only until the moment of the premiere when their true genius is revealed. Designations of troop leaders. The battle attire of the troop leaders is often even more extravagant than that of the other actors, sharply distinguishing them as leaders in the whirlwind of battle. While ordinary Harlequins wear short, elegant vests or ritual jackets wrapped around their waists, troop leaders often flaunt long coats with high collars and long skirts that flow dramatically with every bone-crushing kick or graceful lunge with a blade. Many leaders display the rune of their troop on their lapel or hem, while others prefer to reserve these places for the kaleidoscopic patterns of their native theatre, following the practice of actors painting the rune on their shoulder, thigh, or knee. It is not uncommon for the symbol of the theatre of masks to be worn on the belt, though this in no way supports uniformity. Troop leaders wear a grotesque mask depicting the sinister, hideous visage of war. In the Eldar language, it is called Marathach, which translates to face of death. Its ever-changing features shift from an expression of cosmic terror to a carnivorous grin, displaying sardonic joy at the deadly plight of their opponents. In the heat of battle, it shows the expressions of the dying enemies slain by its wearer. The symbol of the troop leader more often represents a simple outline rather than a distinct rune, and likewise the troop leader wears the symbol of their troop with two arcs at the edges. Shadowseer. All Shadowseers, or Esdain among the Elder, are mighty psychers who play the role of fate and luck in the great dances of the Harlequins. Using their prophetic powers, they sow fear and confusion in the ranks of the enemy and amplify psychic projections with mind-altering hallucinogens. As spiritual mentors to the Harlequins, Shadowseers are shrouded in mystery and mysticism. And although they are not formally part of the troops, they perform alongside them as members of the theatrical collective, enhancing the spectacle with their skills. On the battlefield, however, the Shadowseer channels their full power upon the enemy, delving into their mind and soul to sow fear and confusion. In the Harlequin performances, Shadowseers portray fate. Acting as her narrators, they deliver monologues, sing songs, or compose poems, while the other actors whirl and dance around them. Coupled with hallucinogenic grenades fired from a specialized launcher on their back called a credan, the cunning skills of these mighty psychers allow for staging incredible magical spectacles. Multicolored explosions, shining vortices of blinding mist, and false but scalding flames. These and many other tricks the Shadowseers perform with masterful skill. The primary weapon of these seers is mind manipulation. Using their victims' own senses against them, they blind, drive the brave insane, and inflict psychosomatic injuries that can prove fatal. At the same time, they protect their comrades from any harm, shrouding them in cloaks of illusions that dissipate only at the moment of attack. Being sinister masters of deception and lies, Shadowseers employ their startling psychic abilities as a useful tool in the unending war against the servants of chaos. Moreover, they possess the ability to unravel the threads of the future, albeit quite differently from the seers. They care little for direct manipulation of events and are more interested in which roles of mythical characters the other participants unconsciously play in their performances. Concealing their identities behind stage aliases, Shadowseers appear as emissaries before their kin from the craftworlds or Comora, and shield their thoughts and intentions behind faceless masks. Shadowseers wrap themselves in long robes, akin to those once worn by ancient Eldar seers, with wide hoods adorned with tassels bearing sun and moon amulets. Hanging from their waist are various peculiar items, including 2 Harlequin masks and mysterious pouches. In their hand they each hold a mask of fogging, a symbol of authority and a formidable weapon. As for the Harlequins, there is, as always, little fact and much speculation, and thus the rumours surrounding the masks on the Shadowseer's belt are no exception. Some claim these are the masks of slain troop members kept by the Shadowseer until new actors emerge. However, likely it is not only about this. The Shadowseer can foresee the fate of their comrades, and therefore, when an elder becomes a Harlequin, it is often the seer who bestows the new actor with their mask, having first glanced into their future to see the role they are destined to play. Most often, the attire of the Shadowseer reflects only the colours and symbolism of their grand theatre, and less frequently those of the troop with which they fight. Due to the absence of individual characteristics, there is no way to distinguish any personality other than the one that Shadowseers themselves choose. The rune of the Shadowseer represents a simplified version of the symbol used by Eldari psychers. The lack of any framing speaks of the power of unbridled illusion. The Krydan grenade launcher releases containers with hallucinogenic gas, guided by predetermined firing patterns. While most of the masks worn by Harlequins can take any form they desire, the mask of the Shadowseer shows those who gaze into its depths only their own distorted reflections. Traditionally, each Shadowseer carries a mist stave, a weapon that channels psychic power to crumple armor plates and shatter bones. A mere touch is enough for a living creature's senses to intertwine, their mind filled with conflicting illusions and their vision blurred. Death Jesters. Death Jesters are embodiments of doom, skull-faced warrior dancers who take true pleasure in ending lives in terrifyingly bizarre ways. For them, the act of killing is simultaneously a work of visual art, a tragicomic sketch, and an obligatory duty. As befits his role in the Harlequins' mask theatre, the Death Jester, known in the Eldari tongue as a Margarak, is clad in a sombre black holosuit, and his armour, if legends are to be believed, is crafted from the bones of his predecessors. Adorned with bells, horns, claws, and other various trinkets, he plays the role of death itself in the great dances, performing daring stunts and reaping other actors when their characters die. On the battlefield, the Death Jester conducts a harvest among his enemies with a shuriken cannon, a heavy weapon wielded with the precision of a surgical instrument. Weapons of such immense size are usually mounted on mobile platforms or war machines, but the Death Jester handles it with ease, thanks to a manipulator mounted on his back that supports the cannon as the Harlequin leaps over great distances with incredible grace, aided by his flip belt. The appearance of a Death Jester on the battlefield heralds the ferocious shriek of his cannon, tearing enemy infantry into bloodied shreds of seared flesh. Such a dramatic entrance is fitting, as the sinister jesters play the role of death in Harlequin performances. Moreover, all jesters without exception possess a black sense of humour that drives them to seek new and inventive ways to terrify, torture, and ultimately kill their victims. Sometimes in the midst of battle they begin to chuckle quietly and hum to themselves, all the while bowing mockingly or sarcastically patting those foes whose gruesome demise they particularly enjoyed. It's not enough for them to merely finish off the enemy. To make war more interesting, they must bring some variety to the mundane act of destruction. Especially fond of ironic jokes, such as interrupting an officer's inspiring speech with a shot to the head, scaring sappers into running onto their own minefield, wounding a heavy weapon bearer so that he misses and accidentally destroys the object he was set to guard. Truly, when it comes to writing a tragicomic play on war, few in the galaxy possess such a rich and twisted imagination as the Death Jesters. These strange warriors, rumoured to adorn their armour with the bones of their predecessors, freely move from one mask theatre to another. Other Harlequins watch them with cautious curiosity and amazement, for the Death Jesters are as mentally unstable and unpredictable as they are ingenious. However, their dedication to the Laughing God is beyond doubt, which is repeatedly proven as they save the lives of their comrades, covering them with fire in the very heat of battle. The skull-faced masks and grim costumes of a Death Jester display the characteristic colours of their mask, and sometimes the rune of a favoured troop alongside their native symbol. For ages, the rune of the Death Jester has been firmly associated with misfortune and sudden demise. The Shrieker Cannon is the favoured weapon of a Death Jester, its toxic rounds turning victims into walking bombs, slaying all nearby. Solitaire, in the Elder tongue known as Arabenian, solitaires are incredibly gifted warriors, capable of moving faster than the eye can follow. The acrobatic skill of these performers is so great that no blade, bullet or explosion can touch their flesh. In battle, they appear as incarnations of doom, striking down enemies with lightning-fast hand and foot blows before they even realize the battle has begun. Each solitaire, it is said, is as dangerous as an entire army of ordinary soldiers. Even the Harlequins themselves cannot claim to know the limits of the solitaire's abilities. Tales abound of solitaires running up sheer fortress walls, emerging from shadows within locked bunkers, and even slowing the flow of time. Few can say with certainty how much of this is exaggeration and how much is truth. For those who find themselves in the path of a solitaire, it matters not at all, for they have nothing to hope for regardless. The enemy learns of a solitaire's attack only when they pass through their ranks as a flickering, multicolored blur. Then the real massacre begins. Terrified soldiers fall with severed heads, slit throats, and pierced hearts. Blood gushes in torrents wherever this unknown assassin passes, moving too swiftly to be seen. Only when they pause for a fraction of a second amid the mutilated corpses, tilting their head in curious contemplation, do their victims manage a fleeting glimpse of their executioner. It is revealed to be a solitaire, their lithe figure surrounded by a swirling domino field, their face hidden behind a grotesque mask. At last it moves once more, and then only mere seconds separate its victims from death. Alongside this, they are the strangest of the Harlequins. They hide among the inhabitants of Comora or the craft worlds and wander in foreign guises. Only occasionally do these eerie Eldari reveal the monstrosity lurking beneath their seemingly harmless masks, and join in a performance or skirmish, and then vanish once again. In such times they speak and listen only to ritual words, evoking superstitious dread among most of their kin. This is because among all Harlequins only solitaires play the role of Slanesh, instilling both genuine fear and respect simultaneously. This also makes them the most dangerous of all Segorak's followers, as they walk the path of damnation, their souls fated to be devoured by she who thirsts. The knowledge of their soul's demise means that solitaires make their enemies pay dearly for their death. Once they choose their path, no one can stop them. Solitaires lead a hermit-like existence, traversing the galaxy alone and joining the masked troops for only a single battle or performance should they desire it. It is said, despite the grim destiny awaiting them, that solitaires are marked by the touch of the laughing god, and consequently are endowed with his understanding of the fall and even the nature of the universe. They are believed to know the script of Rana Dandra, who will triumph and what will remain intact in the accursed galaxy. Many Eldari believe that speaking to a solitaire invites a dreadful fate, and if someone inadvertently addresses one or touches them, it is better for the unfortunate individual to end themselves here and now without awaiting doom. Like all other adherents of the Laughing God, solitaires also wear a holosuit during performances and on the battlefield. However, while other actors don colourful and incomprehensible motley attire, the solitaire is clad in a plain coat with a hood, beneath which a mask with a demonic face emerges only at the last moment before the strike. The solitaire's rune serves as an ill omen and is often seared onto the forehead of a victim to spread superstitious fear throughout the enemy camp. The caress of the Harlequin surrounds the hand of its owner with a phase field, allowing them to reach the heart of the foe through armor as easily as one can flex their fingers in the air. The solitaire's mask appears formidable and disconcerting, featuring hyperbolized and androgynous features of Slanesh in all their demonic splendor. Starweavers. Traveling through the webway cannot be called a safe endeavor, so the Harlequins use the swift Starweavers to reach their destination as quickly as possible. Concealed by hollow fields, in flight they appear as a blurred smear, but when they come to a halt, their fragmented silhouette coalesces into one. Nonetheless, by that moment, for most foes, it is already too late to attempt anything. Tearing through the webway at dizzying speed, the Starweaver appears as a mosaic of light, crafted by powerful holofields that obscure its contours. As it rushes across the battlefield, it deploys a troop of Harlequins wherever needed, and then swiftly disappears to flank the enemy army. Rushing into battle at blistering speed, these skimmers weave and dive, easily dodging enemy fire, and with the terrifying howl of anti-gravity engines, deliver their passengers into the very heart of the fray. These light transports are incredibly maneuverable, and due to their weak armor, they are provided additional protection by layers of shimmering holofields and illusion projectors, capable of turning the flying vehicle into a bright and blurred smear. In addition to these ingenious means of enhancing survivability, the Starweavers are endowed with respectable firepower. They can carry shuriken or electromagnetic weaponry, allowing them to provide covering fire for Harlequins engaged in combat. The Starweavers are named in honor of the first and greatest son of the Cosmic Serpent. For the Harlequins, the Cosmic Serpent is considered an important totem, for it is said to have existed both in the material and psychic universes simultaneously, and its strange and capricious offspring occasionally acted as allies of Segorak. The most noble of the serpent brood was the Starweaver. He quickly found common cause with the Laughing God, openly aiding him and even carrying him on his back when the deity was escaping danger, as told in the legend of the Tamarion of Eldanesh, or the tale of the flight from the grave of stars. In memory of this, Harlequins soar into battle on their Starweaver transports, echoing the deeds of Segurak. The Starweaver is painted in the colours of the Mask Theatre, adorned with the rune of the theatre along with the symbol of the troop of light, darkness, or twilight to which it belongs. The rune of the Starweaver denotes a noble steed and at the same time a wise and valiant hero. To distinguish squadrons of Starweavers, the skimmer's wings are painted differently. The Voidweaver is a high-speed assault skimmer whose destructive capabilities are hard to believe given its small size. While most Harlequins perform their deadly dance in personal combat, the Voidweaver circles the edge of the battlefield, supporting comrades with heavy fire. When the Masked Theatre engages in battle, the Voidweaver stealthily slips out from the depths of the webway, shrouded in shimmering hollow fields and overshadowed by the immediate threat posed by Harlequins, who appear moments before it. The advent of the Voidweaver itself is preceded by the wail of its heavy armament, and after the enemy's position envelops in fire and chaos as the streamlined assault skimmer swoops overhead with a whistle. Firing all weapons, he dives directly into the heart of the enemy, only to carve his path to freedom in fountains of blood and actinic sparks. Despite their light frames, the Voidweavers carry remarkably powerful armaments. However, thanks to their lightweight design made of cyplastic and gravimetrical patterns, their formidable arsenal does not make them any less agile. On the contrary, their versatile heavy weaponry combined with polychromatic paintwork and the ability to conduct attacks at supersonic speeds make these machines exceptionally dangerous. A squadron of Voidweavers can easily dismantle a heavy battle tank into parts and with a single volley sweep away an entire detachment of soldiers, leaving only smoking remains. Acting as ambush hunters, these warships strike before the enemy realizes the danger and soar away, avoiding any return fire. A peculiar feature of the Voidweaver is the shuriken cannon mounted at the stern, which can be manually operated or follow laid-out firing patterns under the guidance of a target matrix. Positioned in such a way, the weapon allows them to cover the rear, firing across an arc at anyone foolish enough to pursue. Overconfident landspeeder pilots or orc bikers have often learned the hard way that even without gunners, these tail guns can bring death. Even their placement holds ritual significance for the Harlequins, as this war machine is named in honor of the second son from the brood of the great cosmic serpent. Myths say that always living in the shadow of his older brother, the Voidweaver became grim and temperamental. At the slightest provocation, he was ready to rush into battle and took pleasure in proving his superiority over others. Yet he was so cautious that he grew a second head, always looking back to ensure that enemies could never catch him unawares. Legends state that this serpent did not allow Segurak to ride on its back. But after the laughing god bested him in a contest of cunning, he became his guardian and frequent accomplice. Just as the serpent kept watch over Segurak, the crews of the Voidweavers assist their comrades. Taking on the role of fanged hunters, they become cold and restrained, but their grimaces turn to hungry grins when the Harlequins seize the opportunity to spill the blood of their enemies. The Voidweavers are painted in the colours of their masked troop and bear its symbolism, along with a simple rune designating the machine's number within the squadron. This rune of the Voidweaver is topped with two horns, reminiscent of the two heads of the mythical serpent for which this war machine is named. The squadron to which a particular Voidweaver belongs is indicated by the colour and order of the stabilizer wing panels. Typically, the masked troop employs numerical runes to denote individual machines within the squadrons of Skyweavers and Voidweavers. In the Elder counting system, the transition from rhombuses to arrows holds deep symbolic significance. Skyweavers are the most fearless of Harlequins, daredevils who race into battle astride swift jet bikes. Firing all their weapons, the Skyweavers thrust forward to the roar of plasma explosions that illuminate their path. When they swoop down on the enemy and race through their ranks, they leave behind trails of light in psychedelic colours, accompanied by the joyous whoops of pilots who fly their jet bikes dangerously low over the ground, joined by the ominous whine of star bowlers spun by their comrades, before throwing. Rushing through enemy lines as a blurred streak, the Skyweavers leave behind only flowers of explosions and the cries of the dying. The term Skyweavers also refers to the jet bikes themselves, which carry the servants of the laughing god to war with a deafening roar of engines. Unlike the traditional single-seater jet bikes of the Craftworld Guardians or the Comera Raiders, Harlequin Skyweavers are designed for a pilot and a passenger, each of whom plays a specific role. While the Shadowseer guides the arrow-fast jet bike and fires its main weapon, the Great Harlequin fights from the rear. Many employ star bowlers, heavy plasma charges on a rope, which when thrown wrap around necks, limbs and gun barrels. Upon detonation, these fearsome devices can easily rip a Space Marine in half or tear a leg off an armoured walker. Of course, star bowlers are potent weapons, but they have one major drawback. They are single-use. Therefore, many performers prefer to strike enemies with the long blades of Zephyr Glaives, wielding them with unparalleled skill. A single slicing swing of air and a foe's head flies from their shoulders, their torso splitting in two, spilling blood. Thus, while the pilot directs his war machine with unmatched grace, his comrade seated behind him brings death with every throw of a star bowler or swing of a Zephyr Glaive. In their internal organization, Harlequin masks traditionally honor the ancient theatrical troops that worshipped Segurak prior to the fall. To a certain extent, this leads to uniformity and, in particular, means that each troop typically boasts 2 squads of Skyweavers, since there are 2 riders on a Skyweaver. This rule is purely formal and not strictly codified anywhere. In reality, there are many exceptions, yet a rare mask dispenses with at least 1 squad of Skyweavers in resplendent renditions of stories from the mythical cycle, and many troops have several squads. Each Skyweaver squad distinguishes itself through intricate patterns painted on the engine hood along with the rune of the troop. Members of a squad can be identified by the symbols on their shoulder pads and the colour scheme on the grav cycle's tail stabilizers. Naturally, in the midst of a bright light vortex, a human often doesn't notice such details. However, the Eldar, with their heightened senses, see these distinctions quite clearly. As mentioned above, by tradition, the mask theatre includes 2 troops of Skyweavers, whose aerobatic mastery adds an unparalleled touch of speed and danger to the Harlequins' performances. However, certain collectives like the Soaring Malice or the Smiling Moon enjoy displaying huge swarms of Skyweavers, which is a ritual form of depicting the multifaceted nature of the serpent, after which these machines are named. During conflicts like the Gorlian Massacre or the Fall of the Blade's Veil, such tactics proved extremely effective. They allowed flocks of light grav tanks to outflank opponents and crush them to death in a dance of the Serpent tribe. In Eldar mythology, the Skyweaver is called the youngest and most capricious of the offspring of the cosmic serpent. Described as a composite entity of hundreds of tiny flying serpents, the Skyweaver invariably spoke in riddles and always remained fidgety and confused due to its countless desires. It is said that, as a gift to the laughing god, the Skyweaver once scattered across the heavens, in all its forms telling somewhat different stories of Segurak's adventures. In doing so, it sowed confusion among the enemies of the laughing god and killed many with its painful bite when they turned their backs to it. The wide and smooth hull of the Skyweaver grav cycle provides the Harlequins with ample space for applying individual patterns in distinctive colours of their troop. A decorative mask reflecting the masculine and feminine death, and even Segurak himself, is inserted into the Skyweaver's engine hood. Yet it truly conceals a complex holographic targeting system within. When grav cycle pilots make an attack run, these masks lift and display additional target information on their screen. The Skyweaver rune signifies the conscious spread of chaos and destruction. Skyweaver squads are distinguished by the colourful patterns on their wings. Epilogue. The final act. In recent years, the Harlequin struggle against chaos has taken an unexpected turn. Among the stars, full troops of mask theatres have begun appearing more frequently. In recent years, the Harlequin struggle against chaos has taken an unexpected turn. Among the stars, full troops of mask theatres have begun to appear more frequently. Emanating from the webway, the Harlequins commence performances in the domains of their kin or on the battlefield with the disparate races of the galaxy, where they enact seemingly random, bloody spectacles. As the twilight of the 41st millennium approaches, more Eldar disappear into the webway, forsaking their former lives to don the Harlequin's mask. The servants of the Laughing God are constantly growing in number, and many Eldar ponder the reason behind this trend. The truth behind it is as inspiring as it is frightening. At the very heart of the Black Library lies a vault illuminated by a silvery glow, where stands a pedestal of engraved obsidianite. Upon it rests a crystalline book, said to contain the words of Sigorak himself. Since the time of the fall, no one has opened it, as it was bound with shimmering chains of light. But now, long-awaited signs have appeared. A fallen sorcerer seeking the knowledge kept in the library. A king stirring in a silent dead court, preparing to rise once more. A champion of the ruinous powers, intending to seize in a frenzy of madness that which had previously eluded him. With each such omen, the luminous fetters of the tome flickered and vanished. And thus, when the hefty tome finally opened, the Shadowseers found within a script for the final act, one that entirely alters the story of the fall. Inked in shadows and light, the words embody a fragile hope, describing an intricate galaxy-spanning performance capable of rewriting the fate of the entire Eldar race. The strands of destiny always led to the inevitable triumph of chaos during the mythical final battle known as Rana Dandra. Yet on the pages of this crystalline volume is outlined the final gambit of Sigorak, designed to deceive Slaanesh and compel her to unleash all her power, not for destruction, but to save the Eldar. How such an unthinkable event could occur is completely unclear, as the text provides no definitive answer to that question. But the Harlequins are ready to take their god at his word, for their loyalty to Sigorak is absolute, regardless of the inexplicability of his decisions. And so, the servants of the Laughing God have begun to take the first steps in the last great dance, determined to finish it appropriately or perish with honor.